Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the channel. So, national championship game is set. We'll have the TCU Horned Frogs versus the Georgia Bulldogs. But let's talk about how those two teams were able to do it. Both games really came down to the last play of the game. A missed handle snap by Michigan, sealed it for them, as well as a wide left field goal by the Buckeyes sealed it for them, right? So, us in Miami land, we are happy that it couldn't have happened to a much better fan base. But let's talk about it. Let's talk about it, right? So, looking at these four games, right? One of the interesting things that I took away from it is that a lot of people talk about, coaching continuity and how you need continuity within staffs. That's how you are able to, build something, right? And so you got one team in TCU that has a brand new head coach, and he was able to defy the odds and get his team to the national championship game. You have a situation with Jim Harbaugh, who ended up replacing both coordinators. Got a new coordinator from the Baltimore Ravens, and then obviously has a collective effort to replace Josh Gaddis. Then you go over to the University of Georgia. Ty Monken is only in his second year. They lost Dan Lanning, but obviously they still had Glenn Schumann, Kirby Smart, and Will Muschamp calling the defense. And then from an Ohio State perspective, Ohio State probably is the team that has the most continuity in terms of a particular staff. So um, to me, what I take away from this is that continuity is it's important, but being able to come in day one and um, the players understanding what it is that you want to do and you're adapting what it is that you try to do to the players, right? So that works itself out. But let's talk about the games, right? TCU was able to score um, offense and defense, two pick six, man. So that I don't know had those two pick sixes not occurred, with TCU's offense been able to score to keep up with the University of Michigan, because Michigan didn't have any defensive touchdowns. They got all of their touchdowns from offense. So from a standpoint, Michigan defense can kind of say, hey, well, we didn't give up all these touchdowns. So without those two pick sixes, we win the game going away. And then the one play that's going to be talked about, I feel like, and it should be Exhibit A to, finally take this idiotic rule away from college football. And that is a guy falling down on the ground, not being touched, and he's just ruled down. Um, Replay is good, but replay kind of robbed the University of Michigan right there. But again, you can't cry any tears for Michigan because, again, you're at the inch-yard line and you got to execute. You got to hand the ball off. Obviously, that led to, the fumble and the TCU recovering the fumble in the end zone and getting a touchback. But that particular play, it needs to be looked at. The NCAA, if you want to do something positive, let's not focus so much on NIL and all this tampering and stuff. Let's just go right in here and say, look, this rule, we're ripping it up. It's no longer there. If a guy falls on the ground and is not untouched, he can get back up and continue in motion. That happened to Kenny McIntosh last night. Kenny McIntosh broke a run and it looked like he was gonna score. He looked to the side, Turf Monster grabbed him, and he's down right there. But if not for this idiotic rule, Kenny McIntosh could have failed, gotten back up. Maybe he would have still had enough time to get up off the ground and go score a touchdown. But I mean, they still ended up scoring on that drive anyway. But it's just the fact that um, this same instance happened in two games. In one game, it cost the team, which is the University of Michigan. Then the other team was able to, say, all right, we're gonna put this in our back pocket. We're gonna keep going. But aside from those two, just stand out, instances, two great games, man. It's been two great games. I saw some people saying that the Ohio State and Georgia, as well as the TCU and Michigan game, was competitive, and these are two of the best. These are the two best games they've seen in college. In the playoffs, or semifinal games, right? Because in many instances we've seen semifinal games just they get ugly, and they get ugly fast, right? But I still think that the Oklahoma versus Georgia game to me still ranks right up there at the top. That was a very, very, very good game. You know what I mean? That was a very good game. But not to take anything away from the two games that we watched last night because both of them were good. But, like I said, I'm focusing on TCU and Michigan first. Max Duggan, shrugged off the turnovers that he had, and he kept it going. And Michigan, they sent pressure. They sent pressure. One of the interesting things about watching these bowl games is that one of the things that I do on Saturdays, right? Because I have a business, and so truck. So a lot of times on the weekend, I'm working on it or I'm doing things around it. So the only time I really watch college football is I figure out what time Miami is playing, and then I make sure I watch Miami. And then if I have time, I may watch another game or two. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So what ends up happening is you're watching. Sometimes you're watching teams play for the very very first time, and you're sitting there like, man, why did they do that? Why did they do that? And then you hear the announcer say, well, this is what they do all season. And so like, oh, okay. Well, Michigan sends heat all season, and the guy is open like that. But one of the things that struck with me and me wanting to sit here and watch Michigan is because had to sit through an entire year of listening to people talk about, well, this offense is based on this, or this offense is predicated on this, and it's predicated on this, this, and this. And what I took away from it is like a lot of the things that y'all said, they were false. I did not see J.J. McCarthy going through reads. I didn't see that. What I saw was a situation where the run game sets up the pass game, where the run game is supposed to allow for you to have some one-on-one matchups, and based on whatever we have, this is the guy that should be open, right? One thing I did notice, and I made a joke about it, obviously the flea flicker is the best pass to play in the entire offense. You see what I'm saying? So, but from a passing perspective, I didn't see anything that just was like, oh wow, we actually are missing something, right? But I guess some people could say, well, McCarthy's not that good, but I don't get it. If the architect of the offense, if the quarterback and the architect of the offense doesn't look that good, then there is no excuse that you can give me as to why our quarterbacks regressed so well. I mean, so badly. But if they would have looked that way in that offense with the obviously a much better offensive line, they would have still looked the same way. This is just the short synopsis that I'm just taking away. It's like it's not quarterback driven. It's it's not quarterback driven at all. It's run driven, and if you can make a throw, make a throw. But going into the game, I felt like that's what J.J. McCarthy was going to do. He was going to have to throw the ball, and he made some very big throws. Obviously, the post route that wasn't deemed a touchdown. Then he made another big throw, and so those two throws, I think I think he still had over 300 yards passing, so he was going to have to do that. And then he ran the ball. He ran the ball. You know what I mean? So I can see some of the same variations of what we look like this year in terms of running the ball. I mean, as far as formations and stuff, is what we saw this particular year. And again, I wasn't impressed when I saw it with us, and I wasn't impressed with it on a national stage, right? I wasn't. I mean, but that's neither here nor there. But kudos to TCU. I was looking at the game and I remember I was watching Wholesome show a few weeks ago. And I think someone asked him like Wholesome, what type of defense do you like? And he was like, man, I like the 3-3-5 stack. And me, I'm more of a 4-2-5 guy. I believe in that fourth down lineman, right? Even though in the 3-3-5 you still have that. You can rotate. They're kind of the same. Well, I'm not gonna say they're the same thing because they have different roles and things like that. But he was just talking about someone asked him, well, how you gonna stop the run? And so he got on the whiteboard and he broke it down. And so I said, okay, so let me see. We're having a situation right now where you have the probably from a Power Five level the best offensive line in college football with the best running attack in college football. So let me see how this 3-3-5 stack looks against this offense, and it looked good. It looked good. Donovan Edwards still had over 100 yards running, but it wasn't what I feel like most people felt Michigan was going to do. I think most people feel like Michigan was probably going to go over 200, maybe even 250 because of the success that Kansas State was having against TCU. But one thing that I heard the announcer say that kind of made me think, I said, oh, okay, because this was kind of similar to what we looked like in 2017. And this is what I'm talking about. 2017, the hurricane came. And so our guys had that bye week, and then our guys had to play consecutive games, back to back. And so obviously it's going to bring fatigue to you, especially if you're playing at a high level. Now, it's not going to affect you if you're just going through the motions, but if you're playing at an extremely high level, week in and week out, that is going to take a toll on you. And I think from what the announcer said, that's what ended up happening with TCU. They had to play 11 games straight after a bye week. And so that took a toll on them. So once I heard that, I said, well, maybe that could have been, maybe what was going on in the Big 12 title game in reference to them playing Kansas State. And they handled the run game great. Um, when they needed to send some extra pressure, they had a free runner. And again, like I say, this is the best offensive line in college football. And we went going to halftime, and I was thinking, okay, they're gonna make some adjustments. It was like maybe they did, but it still seemed like when TCU wanted to bring pressure, they were able to get a free runner through there, right? Um, didn't have I don't know. Well, I know McCarthy's fast, but I saw a lot of bad angles being taken from some of the DNs, and just missing containment and allowed for McCarthy to scramble and things like that. And but I just tip my hat to Michigan's defense. They did their job in essence, right? They did their job. Like I said again, if it not for those two pick sixes, Michigan wins this game running away. Now, I think most people felt that, aside from people out of Fort Worth, Texas, I think the majority of America was looking for a national championship game. It was gonna either be a rematch of Michigan Ohio State, or it's gonna be Georgia versus Michigan, right? No one predicted. No one was looking for a Georgia versus TCU. I think that was probably be the absolute last selection. Obviously, I'm sure they probably would have rather have an Ohio State versus TCU versus that however that works out. But let's go to the Georgia Ohio State game. Um, it was a good game, man. A good game with what we say high level talent all across the field. Michigan and TCU, from a talent perspective, we know they're not as talented as Ohio State and Georgia, but that game was really good. It came down to coaching. This Ohio State versus Georgia game, it came down to coaching, right? And so I think the highlight play of that game, aside from the Kenny McIntosh run, and it wasn't even a play. It was when Ohio State was running a fake field goal, and Kirby Smart ran and got the timeout. And the announcer was saying, man, people are paying attention upstairs. They knew that they were outflanked on one side. Kirby went and got the timeout, because had he not gotten the timeout, Ohio State would have got that first down, and that drive would have continued. And it just made me stop and think, man, because listening to Coach Hayes and stuff like that, and listening to Streeter when they had Warren Sapp, sitting in, and how they said that against Florida State, we were outflanked the entire game, or for the vast majority of the game. And I'm just thinking, like, who's upstairs? Who's radioing this down to the field that say, hey, look, when they come out in this formation, we need to kick somebody out. We're outflanked. We're giving it up every time. And again, I don't I don't know, man. Like I said, I'm not an insider. Some rumors are just that, but some people that say certain things, I take it as being valid. But they say it was somewhat of a disconnect in the coaching staff. But I mean, how much of a disconnect can it be, man, to not radio down and say, hey, look, coach, when they come out in this formation, we need to slide someone out, right? But again, it gets down to one of them situations. Well, maybe that's how it was practiced all week. I don't know. But just that play right there just shows that everyone is locked in, at that program, and everyone is looking for excellence, right? But as the game went on, at certain points in this game, I got I was thinking about 2014 when Ohio State played Alabama, and what I felt like Ohio State was able to break Alabama. That was the Ezekiel Elliott game when I saw situations where it seemed like Landon Collins did not want to tackle Ezekiel Elliott, and I was like, man, we know Collins brings the hammer, but like he didn't want to hit Zeke anymore in the second half, right? So at certain points in the game, I said, man, like Ohio State's gonna mess around and break Georgia. You know what I mean? And they were talking about the temperature in the dome was a little bit higher, and they were talking about how Jalen Carter, maybe being affected by it. He's not as effective as he was. And I said, man, the Ducks are lining up. Maybe they win it, but Marv takes a hit in the back of the end zone, and it's like you're already down Jackson Smith and Jigba. You're already down one of your top running backs, and now you're down the top receiver that basically put the passing game on his back throughout the latter part of the season. Now he's gone. And don't get me wrong though, I'm not crying tears for Ohio State because y'all got Brian Hartline. Y'all got guys. You know what I mean? But still at the same time, just inserting those guys into that, into a big stage like that, maybe they're not as adept to those particular roles. I think that's something that we saw last year when Georgia played Alabama. When their two top guys were down and they were depending on, true freshmen. And not just any true freshmen. I'm talking about these are top flight guys. But again, sometimes when you're thrusted into that spotlight, you're not adept at maybe answering the bell. You know what I mean? But that's what it is because even though you go back to the 2018 national championship game, Devontae Smith, true freshman, caught the touchdown to win the game for Tua Tagovailoa. Every time, but sometimes younger guys are not ready for that light, just yet. So, but I thought it was a well balanced game. I know most people may say, well, this was a national championship game, especially with the outcome of the TCU and Michigan game. But I'm not gonna count I'm not gonna count TCU out. I'm not. They have some speed on the outside. That's one of the things that again watching Zach Smith's show, he was talking about Georgia's secondary can be had. They have physical guys, but they can be had. And Marvin Harrison was having his way. The other guy, Mika, he was having his way. So it'd be interesting to see how the TCU guys do because they're fast. So and maybe it could be a situation where it's similar to Ohio State, Georgia. TCU can hit some of the same plays that Tennessee missed because that was one of the thoughts that I had going into this game. I said Ohio State is going to hit on some of them opportunities that Tennessee missed on, and they did. But again, at the end of the game, you pushed the field goal, wide left. Stetson Bennett played, he played well. He had a few miscues, but I know he's a game manager. He has to wear that. But I'm gonna be honest, man. I saw some things from Stetson Bennett last night, and I said, man, he's more than a game manager. Now I'm not. He's not Bryce Young. He's not C.J. Stroud. He's not Caleb Williams. He's not one of those guys that coach put the game on my shoulder and I'm gonna lead you to victory. But honestly, he's a step above what they had in Jake Fromm. A big step, right? And last year I felt more so, especially after watching that Alabama Georgia game win the SEC championship. I said, man, this young man's a liability out here, right? Because if they get down, can he help wheel them back? And Georgia got down yesterday, and Stetson answered the bell. I mean, he answered the bell. That throw that he made when the safeties did like this above, he threw. I mean, literally threw it right over the DB's head. I mean, their receiver got a good release. He got a step on him, and he drilled it. I mean, drilled it. And I said, man, that's not a game manager throw. I'm gonna be honest with you. That is not a game manager throw. That is a throw of a quarterback who, listen, y'all gonna respect me. Y'all gonna put some respect on my name. I'll trill y'all. Y'all gonna put some respect on my name. But I came away impressed with Stetson Bennett, right? But again, and like I said, I asked the question if they're able to go back to back. Are they gonna here's the torch? But I think there gonna be some people, similar to last year, that say, man, look, y'all got off easy again. And I'm talking about Georgia. I got off easy again. Marvin Harrison went down. Um, y'all were getting worked. Obviously, last year Alabama, their guys were down. And we saw what happened in the SEC championship game. So it kind of reminds me kind of like of maybe the Golden State Warriors in instance, right? When they went and got Kevin Durant and they went and played the Cavaliers in the first time that they beat LeBron. Obviously, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love went down, so that was an asterisk. Then LeBron comes back and beat y'all. Then y'all go back and y'all get KD, and then y'all beat the Cavaliers 2 years in a row. So it's kind of like y'all supposed to win. You see what I'm saying? So, but at the end of the day, man, if y'all repeat, great for the Georgia Bulldogs, but I'm I'm riding with the Horn Frogs. I'm riding with the Horn Frogs. But I do think it's gonna be a good game. I do think that the performance that TCU put on the field against Michigan, um, I think is something that we can look at. Um, Georgia doesn't, Georgia has some shortcomings along the defense. So it'll be an interesting game to see what Sonny Dykes and Garrett Riley can do. Um, because as it currently stands, the Georgia Bulldogs are 1-0 against Broyles Award winning coordinators. So they go go two. So they go 2-0 against them because Garrett Riley won it this year. As always, man, let me know what y'all think in the comments, man. Those are two of the better games, man, that I've seen in a long time in terms of the playoff format. And do y'all think it's gonna be Go Dogs or some of y'all gonna be TCU? Because I know some of us are, we're tired of the obnoxious um, Georgia fan base, but I'm just I like styles, man. I like TCU's style, right? So that's how I'm going into it, right? But as always, man, it's all about the you, man. So like, share, subscribe, and comment.